Jeev jago, jeev jago. Gaura Chandra bole, jeev jago, jeev jago. Gaura Chandra
is if you could please explain the important long-term function and beneficial connection between the city temples and the farm communities envisioned by Srila Prabhupada, and what key steps can be taken to strengthen both simultaneously so that ISKCON will flourish on both fronts.
Yes, that's a very important dimension, actually, for making Srila Prabhupada's movement well established all over the world, and how to connect. I think you'll recall, many devotees remember Srila Prabhupada's instruction many years ago that wherever we have a city temple, every single city temple should have within a 50 kilometer radius or a 50-mile radius, more or less, a farm community, so that both can actually be supportive to one another. What we generally fail to understand, we means society in general, and many of our own devotees as well, is that a Vedic culture is primarily what we call an agrarian culture. It means that actually the majority of people are intimately connected with the land and the cows. So we are trying to, in addition to promoting, let's say, farm communities all over the world, we want to link or connect them to our city centers. We want to encourage, for example, something else our ministry is having this year as part of our pledge for the Golden Jubilee. We have taken upon ourselves to visit 108 villages in India, in different states. We have already completed 92 villages, so we're at the tail end of that program. And most of the devotees who are actually involved in this program are from the city. And they had so many wonderful realizations, actually, by going out of the city, because most people don't really go out of the city, and to actually meet village people, to actually see cows. So there's a whole, we're coming out with a small booklet that should be out within a few months, how our city folks, our city devotees and city temples can take this up, because actually every city is surrounded by villages, especially in places like India. Or in a place like in America, for example, there are farms, people in the country. Wherever it may be, we do have a responsibility, members of ISKCON, to actually have our own devotees living in the cities, to have our congregational members as well, be aware of this important dimension. Prabhupada, many years back, for example, he had written a letter to one of his devotees, disciples, that I want to come to India and I want to visit the villages. Somebody had arranged a car, I think, ambassador car. So I want to visit the villages because villages need support. Our villages all over the world actually are crumbling in so many different ways, not being supported. So Vedic culture begins actually in the villages. Vedic culture actually begins with cow awareness. And when we are living in the cities and are not able to even give wholesome, pure milk that is from protected cows, what we call ahimsa milk, then we're not serving our deities properly. You see, when we're not able to give to our deities food that is grown by devotees, it's not just a question of buying organic food. It should be food that is actually grown by devotees. Cows that are actually that are cared for by devotees. This is what Krishna is looking for. This is how Krishna will actually become pleased. And this is how our devotees as well will become more healthy and more alert spiritually by having this miracle of foods, which is milk, and also by having organic, naturally grown food, which again is offered to Krishna, and where we can offer, as Prabhupada started in the beginning of the movement, all of our offerings with pure ghee. ghee products, you see. So we very much want to bring this awareness. Even though we have a ministry in India, we feel that city temples need to also feel a responsibility in going out and reaching out to the people. And those who are frontline preachers, for example, that should be part of their preaching strategy, that when we see individuals, especially who are favorable, then not only we should connect them with our city temples, but we should open up this whole dimension. And this is, this is how we can actually encompass the entire world. We cannot bring the entire world in our cities, in our city temples, rather, isn't it? Yeah. So that was Prabhupada's vision, and we're hoping we have what is called a campaigner's guide, a small booklet, which helps devotees wherever they may be to understand some of these basic concepts and principles. Yeah.
Thank you. Wow, you really have the vision, the Prabhupada vision.
Well, we're trying to continue and introduce and spread actually Prabhupada's vision. It's all Prabhupada's vision that needs to be promoted. And Prabhupada mentioned how this 50% of his mission yet needs to be addressed. Recently I was speaking with Abhiram Prabhu, who's well known within our society, who heard this directly from Srila Prabhupada. And as a matter of fact, he's going to be coming up in maybe 2 interviews or 2 weeks from now as a person who was physically with Srila Prabhupada, who heard it directly, and who is also very much promoting the whole Varnashram mission. Yeah.
Thank you. In the final year of his manifest pastimes, Srila Prabhupada wanted to travel one last time to the West, to Gitanagari, despite being so ill, to teach us how to live off the land. What are some of your best recommendations how ISKCON leadership can help move this desire and final request along most effectively, practically and successfully once and for all, despite the obstacles faced in the past and the current challenges?
Yes, that was a very important statement made by Srila Prabhupada, and his desire to physically actually go to Gitanagari. And Prabhupada's main intent actually was that we have to spend time. We have to physically be there, because one of the basic principles in our Vedic culture, the whole basic principle of self-sufficiency, is to become localized. So Prabhupada wanted to show by example, let me become localized at Gitanagari. Prabhupada had visited before, as we know. And so therefore our leaders and other devotees, but especially our leaders, should show example by actually at least visiting, even if they cannot reside there for extended periods of time. And as a matter of fact, there's a resolution to that effect by the GBC some years back, that, for example, every Bhagavatam class, some portion of that class should be addressed should be covering the topic of Varnashram. And also we should purchase produce from our devotee farmers like that. And leaders in general were encouraged. I don't think it's being done, however, unfortunately. So there's a real need, isn't it, that we follow, as Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, whatever great personalities do, then common people will follow. So there's a real necessity for more of our leadership. Some are involved, some are supporting, but we need a lot more to be doing that. And in other words, we have to show by personal example as well. Jeev jago, jeev jago, Gaura Chandra Bo